Welcome back to Straight Ahead BS Podcast. Thank you guys for your continued support. Please keep on interacting with the video in any way. It just helps the algorithm, and I really appreciate it. Also wanted to say I'm working right now. I'm in the process of updating my Patreon. With all of my videos, I have to do them one by one, so I've had to go and do all 100 about 150 videos one by one, so it's taking a while, but I'm working on doing that. Not only is like a third backup server, I have Spotify's backup server if YouTube ever gets taken down, but then if Spotify ever gets taken down, now I have like a third one, and then I'm also going to start creating some like members only content. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. Maybe like a deeper dive into like who I am as a person or whatnot, or just like certain topics that I can't cover on YouTube because of just like, not that I'm being censored, but just like when I do reach that point where because when you reach 1,000 subscribers, then they're going to ask you like, they're going to start being like, you have to like toe the line and like do things a certain way, which I'm not really privy to. I don't want to do that. That's not the way I operate. So I would rather just like, if there's certain work I'm going to do that I know is not going to be like pushed on their platform, then I can just take it over, that specific work over to Patreon and be like, just go over to Patreon and watch it on that channel instead. So I don't have to just fall in line to any or bow down to any one power structure because I'm not really for that. I'd rather just be able to speak the truth on any topic and just like not be censored at all, because I'd rather just not. Like if there was a choice between like censoring my stuff and just not doing it, I probably just wouldn't do this, because censorship, I feel like, is a way of, in my opinion, just like sugarcoating and just people just need to hear things the way they happened with the words that describe them, and just like, I just don't feel that censorship is personally a good thing. I think it's a slippery slope, but I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that. Sorry for that. So thank you to my Patreon, anybody that's donated. There's also a free tier on my Patreon, so it's not all paid. Like, you can literally just become a subscriber for free, so that's why I'm saying it. But thank you to anybody that's supported me financially. I really appreciate it. It's never expected. It's always really appreciated. Links are in the description for that. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or anything like that. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Hi, my name is Zoey Medland, and I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I went to CEDU in 94 and 95. I went to, it was like for older kids, like I was 18 when I was sent there. It was like when they were trying to expand their program from like um, to reach kids that were like 25, up to 25. So I was in a program called Hilltop, but we went to the CEDU High School and did profits with CEDU and whatnot. Yeah, so I definitely have that history and experience, which I'm sure um, is a good reason why I've struggled with substance use issues my whole life.
Okay. Well, walk us through your childhood and like what led up to you going to that program.
So what led up to me going to that program was that so I was adopted at the age of 5. Um, and my parents were much older, and um, I was kind of adopted for like a PR thing. Like my dad was a very powerful businessman. He was a CEO, and image meant a lot. And having like a family image, parent, like being a parent, um, I feel like was a big part of that image, and that's kind of where I came in. And I have ADHD, which I've been diagnosed with since I was adopted. And I also pretty sure that I have some autism. So, like, it wasn't easy for me in school. I struggled. Socially, I struggled. Just to always, like, constantly be, like, understood. And then, my brother, my adoptive brother, died. He got lost in the mountains when I was 17. And like at that time, I was at boarding school, like a really nice school for kids with learning disabilities. It wasn't trouble teen school at all. It was a very nice school, but I started like using there, just like weed and stuff like that. And then when my brother died, it was really tragic for me because, as I mentioned, I was adopted, and really my brother Steven was the only person that made me feel anything or loved. So when he died when I was 17, I kind of started going off the rails, if you will. Like that's what my parents would say, like just really acting out with drugs and mainly just drugs and like stealing from them, which I'm not proud of. Um, and they tried to send me like different places like throughout, just so I could get an education because I had trouble learning. So like I said, they sent me to a great school that I was at for 4 years or 3.5 years, and then I got kicked out when my brother died because it was just like the end of the world for me when my brother died. Um, and I also really didn't have a lot of like support in my. I feel like I had a lot of looking back like disenfranchised grief about my brother dying because it was more about like my parents' loss and like the blood family and their loss, and my loss was like secondary or like completely ignored, or um if I expressed it, I was always like one upped, that like at least it wasn't your child or something, right? So from there I kind of when I got kicked out of school, um my parents were like, um if you don't go to school and you're not working, you have to leave the house. So I ended up like living on the streets with different people. Um, I got into the rave scene, found crystal meth, which was like obviously great for when you're unhoused because you don't have to worry about a place to sleep because you only sleep like once a month, and you don't have to worry about eating a lot, which like were two big worries for me when I was on the street, right? Um, so I found those in raving, and I would just like see my parents like every once in a while. Like I would tell them that they would think they're giving me like rent money and stuff, and they weren't. They were giving me money for drugs. And um uh so what happened was um I stole my dad's car. I put like it was like a um brand new beautiful car, and I put like I lived in it for 10 days. I stole it while they were away, and I lived in it for 10 days and put like $10,000 worth of damage on it. And um like my dad had to come pick it up downtown and stuff. And um they were like, this I was about just turned about 18 at this point, and they were like, we don't want to talk to you. And I had a relationship with them at that point where um I really was dependent on them for everything. I didn't have a lot of like life skills, partially because of like my disabilities, but partially because I feel like my mom really needed to um, me to need her, so she didn't give me a lot of skills. So after like being like a month cut off from my mom, uh, I went back and I like begged them, like, I will do anything if you take me back. Like, I remember I'd walked through like a storm. It was like, um, it was such a bad storm that year that that the mayor had to call the army in to deal with the amount of snow. And like in Canada, like we deal with a lot of snow, right? Like that's how much snow. And I walked alone that night, no jacket, like a couple sweaters all night long. And then after that, I was like just tired. I'm like, I'll do anything. So my mom kind of was like, okay, you can go to this school. And I just thought it was like gonna be like my other school, like a fun school with theater and like, cool stuff. And so I was like, okay, sounds good. Then you can forgive me, right? And so I agreed. We don't have bounty hunters in Canada, so I was just like tricked across the border. But I know many people that I went there with, like had like the bounty hunter experience. I did not. Also being 18, they couldn't really, like, if I didn't commit a crime, I don't think they could have in the States. Like, I don't know. But
They say, well, then what do you know what they would do in Canada if you just refused or you were considered high risk to like run? What would they do since they didn't have bounty hunters? Do you know how they got the children there? Were they?
no, so they would have to you would have to trick them, like you'd have to trick them across the border.
So
Like,
just so that I'm just
yeah,
okay. So maybe they have a transport service, but it's not publicly known. Like they say they don't have it, but they just really do have it. Could that be?
that's very, very possible. Again, like I didn't experience that, but that is very possible because um
I
of the
don't.
body brokering. Like I feel like that place was body brokered a lot.
What do you
Um,
mean by that?
like, I mean, um, so when I went, there were a lot of famous people's kids there, but there were also people sent there from court.
Yeah.
And some of those people did not, some of them did belong there, maybe, I don't know. But I feel like most people didn't really belong in, like I kind of thought I was going there for school, but once I realized like I was actually there like to be punished, like I don't know, I don't really I don't know where I'm going with this, but
So
um
did you mean like they wanted to have the most people there so they can make the most money? Is that what you're getting?
yes, so there would be people from the court sent there that really didn't need to be there,
Okay.
you know. But I feel like, again, I don't feel like anybody needed to be there, but I feel like some of the people that came from court, like maybe stuff had been made up to like fill the space to get them in there. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, they have they want to meet their quota and exceed it so that
For
every
sure.
person that's in there they get money from.
Well, CEDU was like, when I went there for a year, it was like $50,000.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
And that's in the 90s. So I could only
Yeah.
imagine.
No, that's another reason why I'm like I guarantee that they have some sort of underground transport service for because you're not just gonna let if they have a suspect like if they have a the chance of getting another teen into their facility to make more money, they're
Yeah,
gonna by all means necessary to get that kid there, whatever it takes,
absolutely.
regardless of if it's
Absolutely.
legal or not.
That's true. I do
So,
know another Canadian, a guy that was also from Toronto. That's actually how I found it. Like my mother found the place was because her friend sent her son there, and again he was tricked by like his mom told him that they were going shopping in Buffalo or something, and then I believe somebody came and got him in Buffalo, but
hmm.
yeah.
Somebody like a family member or somebody else, like
No, like somebody from like the transport people.
yeah. See, I think there's some sort of if
Yeah,
I had to guess, I would guess that there's definitely that going on. Um,
yeah, for
what do
sure.
you remember about when you first got there?
Um, I remember that they said they were going to give me like a tour, and my mom said that she was going to be like she'd be right there. And obviously like after the tour, like she was just gone. I remember also like the dress code was really weird. Like I had to wear pants that I never wore before, like these like weird skirt things, like these long pants that were like also a skirt type thing. I don't know, that like that was like one of the first things that I thought that I remember that was weird. And then also um the smush pile. So I don't know if you experienced that where you were, but we
No.
had this thing where um we had to cuddle with everybody, um including staff, and like get massaged by staff or like each other, um which I thought was kind of strange, um and creepy. But I also thought it was weird because like we were all a bunch of horny teenagers, and they were like putting all this stuff on us. But that wasn't the first day. I digress.
Yeah, yeah.
um the first day also, um just people telling me the rules. So in
Give you
in
anything physical? Did they give you a physical rule manual, or was it just people showing you the ropes?
they gave me a strip search. They didn't give me like a cavity search, but yeah, we did get like strip searched, like a level 3 search. Yeah.
What? But did you get a physical rule manual? Like, did they give you anything physical that
Oh
had?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yes, the agreements. So we had a book, a huge book of agreements. So it wasn't called rules, because we were all like where we were. And at CEDU, it was always called agreements. You weren't like you didn't break the rules. You were out of agreement.
Yeah.
Um, and like we had a lot more freedom than the high school did. Um, in the way that like when you got to a certain level, like you could go in the community and have a job. And
Did you make any
like
money
I ne-
from that? Did you make any
no,
money from that job?
no, I never even got to that level.
Oh, like
I never got to that level.
the
But there
people that,
were people. Pardon?
so the people that did, do you know if they actually made money from that job, or do you think it all went back to the facility? Do you know?
I really couldn't answer that, and it would be speculation, and I really don't know because I didn't. I only lasted at CEDU for 7 months. I
Okay.
ended up as uh escaping pretty much. So yeah, so what happened there is, after like the values profit, I was allowed to go home. So the values was like the fourth or fifth profit that we went through, which were the emotional growth experiences. And then I got a visit for 5 days at home. And my parents, after the 5 days, I like begged them to let me stay home, and they would not. So I let them take me to the airport, and they like gave me some money for the airport. And as soon as my dad left, I like took off downtown. And then like I split right from the airport. I was not going back. But then my parents found me, or I called them. I don't know. I can't remember if I like just like surrendered or whatever. It's all pretty blurry because I got like really messed up. Like I tried to erase everything that happened at the school, but I ended up having to go back there. And so the first day I told them I was going to swallow bleach if I had to stay there. So they sent me to San Bernardino County Mental Hospital, which was like horrendous, horrendous there. And like for somebody that lived in like a very sheltered life my whole life, to be like I was sexually assaulted at the hospital there by like an orderly. And so I was only there for like a couple of days, and then they sent me back to CEDU. And then I was like, look, I'm really going to do it because that's the only way that I could get out of there. I was afraid to leave. I didn't want to split like everybody else and go down the mountain because my brother, when I mentioned my brother died in the mountains. So I was afraid of the wilderness. I was afraid of, I could, even though I was 18 and they said I could leave at any time, there was no like splitting for me. I couldn't run down the mountain. So how I did finally leave was, again, I said I was going to kill myself, and I told my parents, like, you can't send me to this hospital, and they sent me to a private hospital, and I only got to go home because it was so expensive to keep me there that my parents finally gave in and like made me take a bus home. But yeah, that's how I got out. Sorry,
No, it's
I'm
fine.
getting ahead of myself.
At the hospital, was it just one person who sexually assaulted you, or was it multiple people, or do you know?
No, it was one person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you hear about that happening to anybody else, or was it just you?
I didn't talk to I've never really talked to anybody publicly about how I got out of there. I might have spoke to Kari about it, but I've never really spoke to people about it. Um because like up until recently, probably like the last 5 years, or when Liam, I don't know if you saw Liam's documentary about CEDU, but up until that point, my parents and like because of the brainwashing at CEDU, like I believe that maybe I made that all of that shit up in my head until I started realizing that like no, I'm not being dramatic, and remembering other things that other people went through as well, like really messed up things that other people went through. I remember in particularly for me because I was adopted, they would always bring that up. Like, um, I don't know if the place you went to, they had full times. We had these things called full times where like if you were out of agreement, so for instance, I kissed a guy on the cheek. I was literally there for 2 days. I still didn't really know the rules, right? I kissed a guy on the cheek, and for a week and a half I couldn't laugh, I couldn't sing, I couldn't listen to music, I couldn't touch anybody, and I could only talk to the person that was assigned to me. During the day I had to break open a rock with a pickaxe, and at nighttime I had to write writing assignments like I'm a slut because, and I'm just like my birth mother because, and like all these really fucked up things that actually stayed with me, and like allowed me up until like probably 2 years ago to really hate myself. Like I wrote that shit so much that I actually believed that shit that they
Yeah,
made me write. And
that's how.
when you're still like, when you're 18, even still, you're still developing your brain and stuff, especially if you've had trauma and you've had like addiction issues, like you're still not fully developed. So like that stuff, I'm almost 50 now, and that stuff has stayed with me. Like I've really had to unlearn just that from that 1 week at that table. That stuff, it was very powerful.
Yeah. And that right there, the writing, the repetitive
Hmm.
thing, like repetitiveness, that's a form of mind control. That's a form
Absolutely.
of controlling somebody's thoughts, because you can delude themselves into believing that about themselves, and then you can when you delude themselves, then you can start implanting new memories and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But this is, I just wanted to point that out to the audience. That's one example of brainwashing and mind control that they use in these places. You become your own worst critic a lot of the times,
Yeah, for sure.
because you get this inner dialogue going on about this version of yourself, even though that's not you. It's a version, it's a part, it's a compartmentalized part of you that is developed in order to cope with your surroundings. So in a lot of cases, it's people just adapting to or just like falling in line in order, because they fear for their lives. So they go into fight or flight, and I need to, and this version of themselves needs to fucking do what they say, or else I might die. So
Yeah.
it becomes self-preservation and just, I might die if I don't. So, and
Yeah.
that becomes who you are. That becomes what you present to other people.
Yeah, because you believe that stuff, right? And
Yeah.
it's those internal negative tapes, right? And it takes years. I think probably for the rest of my life that I'm going to have to be re-recording those tapes in my head, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's a lifelong process
Yeah.
for sure.
What was the hardest part about being at CEDU for you, and how did you deal with it?
Hardest part of me being a CEDU was that I'm not like I don't fall in line very easily. I don't like to sell other people out. I don't like to like they would turn us against each other, or like if you say like there'd be somebody and they were like they had like a broken they had a sex contract with somebody, okay, they would like so that they didn't get even talked to about that, they would like jump on most of the time me because I was like low hanging fruit, right? And like talk about so I mentioned that I have autism. So one of the things of autism is you walk on your tippy toes. So they try to tell me somebody that had like a sex contract and was like really breaking the rules was like, you do that, you walk on your tiptoes because you're wiggling your ass. And like things like that, I just wasn't willing to do those things. So yeah, it made it very difficult. I wouldn't fall in line a lot of the time, and I didn't want to be attacked all the time either. So that's why I was able to like come up with this plan to like just plan to kill myself. Not that I would. Sorry, am I even allowed to say that? Okay.
It's totally fine.
Um, yeah, just like a plan of that, right? Just to get out of there because I'm not that I still had like my own like moral compass where a lot of people I felt like they really bought into the stuff. I really didn't buy into it. Like I went along, but I didn't really buy into the stuff like other people. I don't know. I was very outside. Like I didn't have a lot of friends because mostly I was a target to people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you end up graduating the program or just left?
I
No?
left. I left.
Okay.
I escaped.
What was the worst thing that you heard about happening or that happened to you when you were there?
Um, the worst thing that I heard happening was about like a secret boys swim team um, that the girls weren't allowed to be a part of.
Interesting.
And yeah, and and that we had a staff member like so when we would do the profits like staff would sometimes have to do the profit as well, and they would, and when you do your profit we had to do this thing called a dirt circle. So that's like it's part of mind control as well, like you were saying, where you confess everything so that later on like in the evening they can put like they can use that stuff against you. um Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I lost train of thought. My bad. What was?
What
I
was the
want to make
worst
sure I'm
thing
making
that
the
you
point.
saw?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. The other worst thing was there was a pedophile that was there. Um,
Okay.
the staff would say like that they raped people or killed people that in the dirt circles. So that was yeah, that was scary. And like a
Hold on,
yeah.
hold on a second. I wanted to touch on that for a second. First of all, like, what more do you know about this secret boys swimming team? What do you know about
Um, I know that it was Martin's swimming team, and I know that one of I like know that one of the boys that was on the swim team, was like to a girl, you like to swim, maybe you can be on Martin's special swim team. And then somebody said, no, that's just for boys. And a few people that I have talked to have, they have some weird memories of Martin's bathing suit and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think that that's, now looking back, that's shady. I can't say what happened there because I wasn't there. But again, like, that's highly inappropriate. And I can only imagine what happened to those young boys there.
Okay. There
was also a serial killer. There was also a serial killer there.
Okay, hold on a second before we get that. Because I actually do research into certain stuff about this, and now that you said that, I have a feeling I know what was going on. But then you said that there were staff members that were saying they were raping kids and pedophiles, stuff like that. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, that they had raped people before, like when, okay,
Inside of a circle.
Yes, in the dirt circle, in a profit. So like we would all be confessing our stuff, and they would come out and say like, yeah, I killed somebody or I raped somebody. That happened. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there was a serial killer too?
Yeah. So you'd have to Google like the exact thing about CEDU and the serial killer, but he had access to a lot of people. When I was there, he was friends and more at the CEDU, like at the high school, but he was actually friends with the doctor. I believe there's.
Abused you?
Pardon?
The one
No. The doctor of CEDU.
Okay.
Not the guy the orderly that abused me in the hospital. No.
Okay.
So this was a doctor that CEDU, like it was their own doctor. And the serial killer turned out that he was really good friends with with the doctor. And it came out that he had access to people at CEDU. Not when I was there, but maybe shortly after.
Okay. And how do you know this? Were you told this?
Yeah, from people I've talked to, yeah. From people I've talked to, and then I did look it up. I did look some of the stuff up as well, because obviously I do like to do a little bit of research on stuff. But especially when stuff like that comes out about CEDU, because it kind of files it away for myself that like, yeah, this was a really bad place. So I look into that stuff to see if maybe somebody else might be like, I still kind of gaslight myself. And so I always do my research. Like I'll look it up or whatever. I can't remember the young man's name, one of the young man's name that was associated with. Yeah, it was a young man.
Was he a student?
No, I don't.
Was he a student, or how was he associated with just through the doctor at CEDU?
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of and it's believed there was a young man and I can't remember his name, but he ran away at that point and nobody's ever seen or heard from him again. And we're pretty sure that he got that guy, the young man, and I friggin' at the moment cannot remember his name.
What did it? I had somebody come on the podcast recently and said that there was a kid that they said ran away, but he just never returned. Is that the same kid you're talking about?
It could be, yeah, like Michael something. Michael Yun, or
it was slow in the head.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact name, but I remember him saying that he was like a little bit slower. If I can remember correctly, I might be mistaken on that, and that he had attempted to run, and that they said that he just never came back or something like that. Was it?
And the thing is, there's several people from CEDU that ran away that never came back. Like were never heard from again. Not just like never came back to CEDU. Were never heard from again.
How many? Do you know how many?
No, not offhand. I should have written this stuff down. but it is information. There is information on it. Frig. There is information on it. I'm sorry.
It's totally fine.
It's just look if you Google like serial killer and then CEDU, like CEDU, stuff will come up, and like runaways or missing teen from Running Springs and stuff like that. You might find it. That's what I did. I looked up like Running Springs missing persons, and about this serial killer that they found. They caught him.
Okay. And was
But
he a
it's all
convicted?
like on Google.
Was this a convicted serial killer?
Yeah, he's been convicted. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Did you notice any grooming or sexual assault? I mean, smushing is like borderline that. Definitely grooming. But did you notice outside of that any inappropriate behavior from staff to student or student on student when you were there?
I feel like just the way they dealt with us in general, like I feel like being called a slut when I'm 18 years old from a 40-year-old man, and like having to talk about like intimate sexual details with a 40-year-old man is highly inappropriate, especially like since there were two people in the incident, and the guy didn't get like any consequences or anything. And yeah, just the way they dealt as women, the way they dealt with us was like, no, I never saw any like I never really saw anything, but the Martin thing really rings a bell. And yeah, that's really all I can say about that, like from my personal knowledge and experience.
Okay. And how did you end up going home? Like what happened with that?
So I tried to tell them that I was going to kill myself, and so they sent me to the San Bernardino County Hospital. And I was only there for like a day or two because I was assaulted by an orderly in the shower. And so obviously, like, CEDU at that point was like the lesser of two evils. So, of course, I went back. But very shortly, like maybe I was there for a day, and I was like, no, I'm going to swallow bleach. And I negotiated with my parents to be sent to a hospital called Loma Linda, and it was too expensive to keep me there for longer than a week or two. So after like a week or two, they sent me home on the bus. But I had to like threaten to kill myself to even like get out of there. I wasn't brave enough to run. I
Okay.
had to like I had to maneuver in other ways, like try to manipulate the system.
Okay. And what happened when you got home? What have you struggled with the most? Or hold on, just what happened after you got home? Let's just start with that. Not the what have you struggled with the most. What happened after you got home?
Well, my relationship with my parents was really strained. My dad was really angry that I didn't stay there, and I was like, "Do you realize that I was gonna swallow bleach to get out of there?"
Yeah.
And my dad basically was like, "You should have." So yeah, needless to say, every time I tried to bring it up with them, they basically said like that they did the best they could and they were trying to save me, and don't be so dramatic. And my mom actually really bought into the CEDU thing, because like on family day they had like the same type of profits but for the parents, and like my mom ate that shit up. So I don't know, maybe they really did believe like in the stuff, and they had already labeled me all of the things that CEDU was labels kids when they're talking to parents. They'll be like, your kid's gonna lie and say whatever to get out of here, and they're gonna do this, and so I was already labeled that anyway. So like from time, like since I was like 5 years old, labeled like a liar and a manipulator. So they really never believed me when I would say things. The other main thing that made my dad be like, okay, finally, we're gonna let her come home, is I told them that that somebody there was trying to get me to say that my dad touched me, which like I have no idea if he touched me or not. But at that time, maybe he did. I don't know, but I don't remember that. So I was like, that's bullshit. Right?
Yeah.
And because of my dad's image, you wouldn't want somebody walking around with saying that shit, or if it was true or if it wasn't true. You don't want that stuff coming out, right? So when I said that, they were like, okay, we're not going to send you back, just take the bus home.
Yeah. There's like a clicking noise in the background. Do you know what that possibly could be?
I don't. I had like something I was fidgeting with in my hand. I just put it down. It could be that.
Okay. No, you're totally fine. What have you struggled with the most as a result of being in CEDU?
Relationships, trusting people. I'm often I often perform attack therapy on my friends and my loved ones, because I still struggle to effectively like communicate like a normal non CEDU person. So I'm either like just really giving it to people, like really cutting them up, out of love, which I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But also just trusting people, feeling like I belong everywhere I go. I've been in my line of work for 7 years, and everywhere I go, I feel like I have to qualify to be there when nobody else is doing that. Everybody else feels like they belong where they're at, and I walk into a room and I feel like I have to always constantly be proving myself that I belong in spaces and stuff like that. And that definitely comes from always being told that like I'm adopted and I don't deserve these things, and I should be grateful for the crumbs that I get. And that was from CEDU.
Okay. And did you get into heavy drug addiction at all when
Absolutely.
you got out? Okay,
Yeah.
How long after you got out did you get into heavy drugs?
I mean, I was already into heavy drugs when I got there. Like that, I was on crystal meth when I went there, so I was doing more drugs, and also eventually the drug changed because I really like to dissociate, so I just changed the drug now, which is like just more functional for me. Um, yeah, like I do a lot of ketamine. And yeah, it helps a little bit sometimes. But yeah, like those are really, I've struggled with it on and off, but I've actually been able to make a career out of my life experience with drug use. So, which I never thought would like be possible for me to like actually be able to help other people and make a living at supporting drug users and being safe and stuff. So I'm
Like,
very thankful for that.
what do you do?
I'm a harm reduction worker.
Okay, I want to have a conversation with you then about
Yeah.
that.
Um,
So we'll get into
definitely.
that here. We'll get into that here towards the end.
Sure.
But uh, what drug did you start with? How did it escalate? And did you ever become a intravenous user?
Yeah. So I feel like I was on Ritalin as a kid for my ADHD, and then I didn't want to be on that. I just didn't. I've never been one for government drugs. I've just never been. I like to pick my poison, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it's just like the rebel in me. I just feel like if I'm gonna have to take drugs, let me choose what I'm gonna have to take. So because Ritalin really fucked me up. So yeah, I did crystal meth. I snorted it at first, and then I started smoking it, and then I started shooting it, and then I started shooting it like dry in my jug. Um,
Did you just run out of veins, or were you just trying to see if it would give you a different high, or why were you shooting up in your jugular? Because usually people
um,
they lose veins.
I was my veins would shudder every time I would even like try to prep something. And um, yeah, I'm just not really good at I was never really good at doing it that way. And I would like let other people do it too. I couldn't do it myself. I would like I would put myself in very vulnerable situations where like people were shooting me up because I didn't really know how
Yeah,
to. And
I was like the polar opposite. I would be like, don't fucking. I would be like, because if I miss, I want to be pissed at myself and not have to be
yeah,
shut up or something like that. Like I
yeah,
don't.
yeah.
So I was the complete opposite. Like I let somebody do it the first time that I ever shut up, and then ever since, and then I just taught myself how to do it. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I did it one time, and then I got addicted. But yeah, how did it escalate? Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh no, it's okay. I mean, it just escalated and escalated until
Like, what did you
I
start
ended.
with? Like, was it weed to mushrooms to something else, or like
So
what was?
it was like no. So I started with like I used to drink a lot of alcohol because my dad was on the board of Seagrams, and I could like drink and drink and I could have like a party with 20 people drunk for 4 days and they wouldn't notice the amount of alcohol. But I couldn't handle my alcohol, so I didn't really like that. I was a pukey, cryy drunk
Yeah.
or a violent drunk with like really bad depth perception. Like it just wasn't a good scene for
Yeah.
me. So then I would try like all the pills in my mom's cabinet,
Okay.
which were like everything. Like she had everything that you could possibly imagine, like opioids, crazy stuff. Hold on, I just have to plug in my phone. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Um, and then really like when I got into the rave scene, I was doing acid,
Okay.
and somebody just came up to me and they were like, well, that's for babies, so let's try some crystal meth. And I was pretty much hooked after that. Yeah.
Wait, so you went
I was,
from acid to crystal meth?
yeah, in one
Crazy.
day.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. And so like the first time I tried it, I was like, this is pretty good. And then after that, when I would go to parties, there was this guy, and he would be like, "I'm selling crystallese," and I thought I was taking ecstasy, but it was just more crystal meth. Um, so yeah, like that that really worked. It worked for me for a long time, like as like a medication.
Yeah.
But then it didn't, right? Like as soon as I started shooting it, it was like just a sweaty, twitchy mess. Um, I can't talk. I can't like it wasn't good. And like I said, I was putting myself in very vulnerable situations. Like as anybody should learn if they're gonna do it intravenously, like learn to shoot themselves up, because like if you can't hit yourself and somebody else can, that's control and power that they have over you, and they can make you do things, and they can I've seen it. I haven't had that happen to me, but I've seen it 1,000,001 times. So, yeah, I don't know. I ended up going to jail, and I got tired of it. Just got tired of shooting up crystal meth. Just shooting it up, right? Like it wasn't getting me anywhere, and I got cancer as well. So I knew I had to like really like change my drug habits because I was gonna die. Um, so yeah, then I switched to crystal meth or crystal meth. I switched to ketamine, and yeah, that's helped because that's a mutating molecule. So like at first it's like a tranquilizer or dissociative, but after you use it heavily for a long time, it breaks down as an amphetamine. So then it starts helping with the ADHD. Like I don't get into a K-hole or anything. It more breaks down as an amphetamine now than like put me in a K-hole kind of thing.
Interesting. And with your harm reduction, what do you offer people?
Well, right now in Toronto, we have overdose prevention sites, and we also have a program called the Safe Supply Program. It is a Dilaudid program and Cadian program. So it's to help people get off fentanyl and give them wraparound care. So they have like their prescriber is like their family doctor, and they like would get prescribed like whatever it is, like say 500 milligrams of Cadian that they have to go to the pharmacy to get. And then they would have breakthroughs through the day. So whatever that looks like, that could look like 20 Dilaudids in a day. It could look like 80 Dilaudids. The most I've seen is like 1,000 Cadian, like 500 a night, 500 in the day, and then 80 Dilaudids during the day. So that's one of the programs that we offer, and the safe consumption sites. And we also offer safe works, like safe injection kits, short kits, long kits, safe foil that you don't have to burn. It can smoke and it's won't affect your lungs. Screens and pre-made pipes with like proper sticks for crack pipes. Crystal meth pipes with like a little moist towelette that you can like wipe off the soot or like cool your bowl. We give out even like yeah, that's pretty much. We give out naloxone. We do naloxone. I do naloxone trainings. Yeah, a lot. That's pretty much what our harm reduction looks like now. But I'm not sure it's going to be around much longer.
Okay. Well, with the Narcan training, do you go over the component of people getting extremely agitated and might even violent when you revive them? Do you go over that aspect with people?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is naloxone is really only like, so in the overdose prevention sites, we don't even use naloxone.
Okay.
We use oxygen, because what is happening is you stop breathing. So to bring a person back, if you have oxygen or you give them breath and keep breathing for them and doing the pressure, they will come back with the oxygen. Like we hardly ever use naloxone in the sites unless like it's mixed with Valium or something, and we're having trouble bringing them back. Then we do, and but it's usually we distribute the naloxone on the street. For people, because when our overdose crisis really started really getting bad in like 2017, I want to say, we were walking over bodies when we were doing outreach and stuff. Like it was horrendous, and we had to set something up illegal, clandestine, in a very active part of the city, in tents in the middle of winter. And ever since we started that, there has not been one death in an overdose prevention site. There has been outside when it's been closed or whatever, but there's not been one death. And we all use oxygen.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Is there,
Yeah.
do you know if there's any plans or even a way to get rid of naloxone completely in that kind of scene, and just use, like, have a kit, for example, where you show people how to do the oxygen, or have like an on-the-go oxygen thing where they could use that instead of the naloxone, so they don't have both the precipitated instant withdrawal and the chance that somebody might get agitated or violent afterwards?
So, well, yeah, because you do artificial respiration and CPR.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So those can do it. The only thing is you, the other thing you can also do is give somebody a lesser dose of the naloxone. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys get your naloxone, if you get the nasal or the injectable, but like if you get the injectable, you can just give them like a bump of it, like a little bit, to kind of wake them up.
But
And you don't have to give them the whole thing.
That's still gonna block the opiate receptors, correct?
Yes, but also naloxone only lasts 20 minutes.
Okay.
So, like in the overdose prevention site, if we had to give somebody naloxone, which we didn't. So like back when we did the tents, we did have to give naloxone sometimes, right? Because we didn't really have oxygen at that time.
Yeah.
But back in the tents, you have to sit with the person for like 20 minutes because the naloxone wears off.
Yeah.
So we would have to remind that person, hey, can you stay with me for 20 minutes? And please don't use for the next 20 minutes. So what you would want to do with somebody is, when you are, if you do have to save somebody, try to stay with them for a little while, because they could go under again.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Because it wears off, and advise them not to use right away, because it will come back. They will be in withdrawal for that time. And also naloxone, like the reason we don't do it in the sites anymore is because it breaks the trust.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that could have been that person's last $10, and you just wrecked that for them, and they don't want to come back, right? But on the street,
you'd rather
I don't know.
I'd rather
just like access. Yeah, I'd rather them have the access, and then you just say like, hey buddy, I saved your life, you know. But I've had some experiences like that where people were really pissed off, and I'm like, what the hell happened here? Like, we just saved you, you know? So yeah, that is a very that is something that we tell people. We also have to tell people too that what an overdose looks like, because somebody that doesn't use doesn't know that if you're on the nod, that's part of it.
Yeah.
To leave the person alone, right? They think, oh, that person's on the nod and they Narcan, right?
Yeah. Also, it should be known that just because somebody's nodding out doesn't mean that they're overdosing. Like, that could just.
No, that's exactly it. Yeah.
You know, like.
No, nodding out is part of. That's what I always say. Nodding out is part of the high. What you want to look for is blue lips and blue fingernails. That's the best telltale sign. If they are not just on the nod, leave them alone.
Yeah, they don't.
And you can tell. Yeah, and if you're worried if the lighting is not good, you take your knuckle and you rub it right in their collarbone like that. And if they're overdosing, they won't respond to that, and then you give them the Narcan. Another thing you can do if you're not sure is tell the person, hey, I'm bringing out the Narcan, and if they're not overdosing, they will wake up and be like, don't give me the Narcan.
Yeah.
So those are ways you can kind of protect yourself and be like, hey, I'm going to give you the Narcan. And also, just when you're administering it, say it so you cover your ass. with somebody. Say, I did tell you, you know.
Yeah, no, completely. Okay, in any of these places, do they have like transitional like services, like, or like, for example, like, do they help people like get into housing or like get into shelter or like point them towards like a rehab? Like, do you guys ask people or give them like, not ask people, well, yeah, ask people if
Yeah,
they want to go
so
to rehab, but give them like pamphlets or like information on that? Is that part of that process of the harm reduction, or
no,
are you
no,
just doing?
no.
Okay.
I mean, if somebody were to ask me for help with treatment, I would definitely, it's my job to give them referrals, but it is not my job to thrust upon somebody um, uh, the government's agenda of getting people treatment, because if you force somebody into treatment, they are taking up a bed of somebody that is dying to get in there, that really wants to be there, for one. And for
Yeah,
two, the harm reduction is not in lieu of treatment. The harm reduction is to make sure that people are alive, so that when they're ready for treatment, that they're alive to actually go there, right?
yeah. Yeah,
You know?
I'm just saying, because there's arguments on both sides. I'm just
Yeah,
looking at it from like an outside perspective, but
for sure.
um, I also know that a lot of people don't know that there's even resources out there to get help, and that's like
Yeah,
it's not a very big percentage of people, but I know firsthand that especially a lot of runaways and people that are just running away from a bad situation at home, whatever the
yeah,
situation may be, probably have no idea most of the time that, rehab is even an option or any of that.
yeah.
So I mean, just
Well, the
like,
thing is, it's not very accessible. Even here, and especially in the States, it's not accessible for people. Treatment's for rich folks,
yeah,
and that's unfortunately how it goes, right? Um, there's not even there used to be one women's 6-month program that is not a program anymore. Um, we do right now in my where I work. If you're on the Safe Supply program, we do have an some housing units,
okay, that's
but
good. Yeah,
but
I think that's
it
more important, honestly, is just like just getting them stabilized. Like a roof over
yeah,
your head is huge, like especially if you're
housing is
homeless.
everything.
Yeah,
Housing is everything.
yeah,
Um, because it gives you a chance to sleep, so you can make your appointments
yeah.
um and make those choices. If you're constantly worried about a roof over your head and food in your belly, I mean, I if you're unhoused too, like, you are going to be a drug addict. You are going to have, if you did not have those problems before, you are,
Yeah.
because of the system, because of being invisible and marginalized. So yes, right now we do, but my agency only has like 5 units,
Yeah, you just don't have
right?
the.
Yeah, and they don't really um right now all of our stuff is being threatened. They're threatening to close down
Yeah, the
all our
thing, they
sites.
take it all away, right?
Yeah, they're not funding harm reduction stuff. A lot of people are losing their jobs, which is horrendous. But most important, the services where the unhoused people feel that they're heard, and where, like, they have connection to somebody that will listen to them. Maybe they're not ready to be housed, and they don't want that, but just
That's a
need to
large
chat with some.
that's a large
Yeah,
percentage
like,
of the unhoused, is that they
yeah,
just want rules. They don't, they want to just,
they don't want to be monitored. They
yeah,
don't
they,
want to,
a lot of these places don't let you have visitors. I live in a low
yeah,
income place, but I'm very, very, very fortunate in that with who I have over, like, but in a lot of these places, especially single room occupancy SROs,
yeah,
like that they're opening up in a lot of these places, like it's literally like just a studio. Like I'm lucky enough to have one bedroom,
yeah,
one bath, but for a lot of these, it's just a studio and like
yeah,
literally like, and what they're not giving these people resources to like get jobs or anything like that. They're just pretty much putting them in these places so they're not out on the streets using drugs. So it's not a fixed law, but also a lot of these people, they don't want rules. They don't want to have to come home at a certain night, wake up at a certain time in the morning, like do chores, whatever it is in these places. So a lot of these people are, they don't, not that they wouldn't thrive in a structure like that, but they don't want that. That's not the kind of life they want. And until something better comes around, they're not going to take it. So some people choose to be homeless downtown, you know, or
Yeah,
wherever
for
it
sure.
is.
For sure. Another thing that they want to take away, like our the guy that runs our province, he wants to in the new year, he wants to charge people a $10,000 fine for using drugs outside. Okay, so that's definitely targeting unhoused people.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also, if you can't pay the $10,000 fine,
Yeah. Most
you
of these
go to jail.
most of these people
Yeah.
can't even pay like a $500 fine, let alone 10,000, you know?
Well, this is the thing, and we don't have private jails right now, but I can see that that's where they're headed with it, right? Like, why else is all like they want to privatize? Like, they're trying to privatize our healthcare right now. We've had like up until like the past 5 years, we had a great universal healthcare system, and that's all going down. And then there's going to be this war probably happening in March against our drug users, where we might lose all of this stuff, which is
How
really unfortunate.
how do you feel, when do you feel like everything started falling apart with the harm reduction? Do you feel like
Um,
more recently, or do you feel like it's been gradually over time?
okay, so for Toronto, what has happened is somebody got fired from like the main harm reduction place, and they didn't like it. So they went to like the National Post, which is like the New York Times, pretty much like the New York Times.
Mhm.
And so like all the rich people read it and talked like threw everybody under the bus, all the employees, said people were drug dealing, said like every crooked thing that's happened, which was like in harm reduction, a lot of the times we're bending rules to help people, right?
Yeah.
And like I guess there was an incident where like she let somebody that like stole something from a store out the back, and they fired her for it. So anyway, because the politicians and all the rich folk have read this article, it's given them an open season to just tear that all down, because like the gentrifiers and the people that now like own land in these areas don't want drug users at all around. And from this one article, and also there was a shooting outside there that had nothing to do with anybody in the place, but they're using that as well. And it's just that happened last year, and it's just been like slowly they're pulling funds, but they're also doing it to put more money into policing, which is like FTP, like we really don't need that. We don't need more street bullies. We need social workers out on the street and nurses.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going in uh, a really conservative way right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could go back in a time machine and not go through CEDU, would you do it, and why, knowing what you know now?
Um, would I do it again? Would I go through that again?
Yeah.
Hell, fuck no. I would never go through that again. Never in a million years. I wouldn't wish that on my worst fucking enemy. Never. I am grateful that I still have like a few people from there that I talk to that aren't completely broken inside, like they've had a little bit of healing. There's a lot of people that have not had healing around the troubled teen industry, and I just wish them well, and I'm grateful for the few friends that I do have, and it's nice to see them flourishing in spite of what we were subjected to as children.
Okay.
Pretty much.
And what do you think you needed instead of being sent away? What do you think would have helped you back in the day?
Oh, attention and love and acceptance, and like maybe a proper diagnosis that would have helped too.
Okay. And in your experience with the Dilaudid clinics, because do you have methadone and Suboxone over there too?
We do. We also have the Sublocade shot. Do you know? Are you familiar with
Vivitrol?
Sublocade? Pardon?
Vivitrol?
I'm not sure. It's called Sublocade where we are. It's like a once a month shot.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
kind of thing, yeah.
We also have a Vyvanse program. So that's for that's like medical meth. We also have a Vyvanse program. Yeah.
Which out of all those methods, what is the most successful, like numbers wise, like that you found? As far for the heroin stuff, like for the just like the Dilaudid versus the methadone versus the Suboxone versus the.
I have seen the Dilaudid program change people's lives for the better.
Okay.
And I have also seen Sublocade change for the better, but I support both programs because I believe that some people just don't want to hurt and hurt other people and commit crimes in order to deal with their pain. And they still want to have a little bit of a buzz, and I'm totally for that. But I'm also for those people that really just don't want to they don't want to get high anymore, and they don't want to be dependent on opiates, taking the shot once a month, because I have seen amazing results with both if used properly. I've also seen shit shows with the Dilaudid program.
Okay. Do they offer any sort of mental health counseling with these substitute drugs?
Yeah. So with I'm not sure about Sublocade. I could get back to you on that. I'm not sure, but with this with the Dilaudid program, you have wraparound care. So you have a doctor that you see every week to fill your prescription, plus there's a case manager. So the case manager would help with your mental health, help you with housing, help you with referrals if you needed a social worker. It's like a wraparound. You have a team working with you, which I think is pretty good.
Okay. And with the Dilaudid, have you noticed a lot of people like taking the Dilaudid and then also taking other drugs on top of it, like Xanax and drinking and stuff? Is there a lot of that? Is that as prevalent as it is in the methadone scene? Because that's very because I go to the methadone clinic, and it's more than 50% of the people are just using the methadone so they're not sick at the end of the day, but still using drugs, me included. I was doing that for a while. So is that as prevalent with the Dilaudid, you find?
Yeah. It is. So the thing with the Dilaudid program is they're not going to start you at 80 pills, right? Yeah. They'll start you at 10 pills a day. And if you're doing 10 Dilaudid, so Dilaudid 8s, to even do a point of fentanyl with the Dilaudid 8s, you probably have to eat or shoot 8 of those, 6 or 8 of those in one shot to even get unsick.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? From the fentanyl. So they have to raise it up. So I knew somebody that was on the Dilaudid program and up to 80 Dilaudid, up to 1,000 on Cadian, and they were still using fentanyl, and they just got the shot yesterday, and they're not sick. and they don't have to use fentanyl. They felt they didn't have to use today.
Do you,
Um,
do you
but
feel like
before they did.
do you feel like there's a point, like what point in your opinion is taking advantage of the system and just like getting as high as you possibly can on the system versus just maintaining? Like to you, where is that line? Because for me personally, on methadone dosage, me personally, if I were to say, I think 80 and higher, 80 milligrams and higher, like if you're on 120 for sure, because I know
Yeah.
people that are on like fucking over 300 milligrams of methadone, and
Yeah.
yeah, I get people
Yeah.
are in pain and shit, but dude,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
was 80 and I could barely stay awake like halfway through the day. I would literally
Yeah.
fall asleep like sitting
Yeah.
up. So it's just, in your opinion, what differentiates the two?
Um,
Like, do you think
well,
there's a certain amount of people?
well, for me, in my humble opinion, I believe that um, there is no line, because if people need to take advantage, like you said, which would be like perhaps taking half of those pills for themselves and selling half of them,
Yeah, yeah,
in my opinion, that is harm reduction,
yeah, yeah,
because they're not sick and you're giving them food security, because now they can sell whatever. Like, that's not like our intent behind it, but that's like some people, that is what happens. And you know what, if that's what they have to do to get by, I would rather them selling their pills than selling fentanyl.
Do you think it
You
should
know what
be?
I mean?
Do you think it should be a crime when people sell their methadone doses or pills that they have? Do you think that should be a crime?
Do I think it should be a crime? I I don't. I don't. I think that if you are responsible and you see that somebody's sick, um, I mean, I've never given somebody or sold somebody methadone, but I have seen people very sick and given them money to go get high, and I
Yeah,
feel like it's the same thing.
yeah,
It's a harm reduction. If you're not oppressing somebody, if you're just literally just trying to help them out,
yeah.
it's a lot different than you. Like, I believe that if you're selling fentanyl and methadone and you don't use that shit, you're a fucked up person.
Yeah, yeah.
If you've never had a problem with drugs and you sell drugs, that's a fucked up person.
Well, especially
But
if you're
you
doing it in like a methadone zone. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people will come down to like the methadone mile is what we call it, where it's just
Yeah.
like a mile or so of these areas where just everybody just hangs out that does methadone, and
Yeah.
fucking they will literally inject themselves into these areas and not even using, like, they might smoke weed and then all they do is just deal to everybody there
Yeah.
like any drug they want, and they just completely decimate that entire like population, and the population
Yeah.
becomes dependent on that one person, and they
Mm-hmm.
become like the big plug or whatever. And I've seen it
Yeah.
happen so many times. These people aren't even on methadone. They're not even on
And
it.
the, and then the methadone patients are afraid to go there because they owe buddy money, or
Yeah,
like they're afraid of. And I totally um do not agree with people trafficking drugs, because a trafficker and an addict are different. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with a fellow opioid addict helping another opioid addict if that's what's happening.
yeah.
But again, like, who am I to judge what the situation really is? I'm just there to make sure nobody gets hurt, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And obviously, don't sell to fucking pregnant women. Don't sell to children. Like,
Yeah.
it's sick shit. Like, preferably, just don't sell to anybody you know. If you don't think if you don't know they're an opiate addict, don't sell to them. You know what I mean?
Well, can I tell you that when I did do the overdose prevention sites, when I interviewed, that was like one of the things they asked me is how would I deal with somebody that came into the overdose prevention site pregnant?
Yeah.
And I had to say, like, it's not really my business, because it isn't my business what
Yeah.
that person is doing. But yeah, it's totally wrong to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Anybody that uses drugs to oppress people, whether it's like somebody drugging somebody and getting them hooked on something so they can like capitalize off them, or if you're pushing drugs and you never picked up a drug in your life, that's just a different type of I don't deal with, that's just a different type of beast. I don't really have like compassion for people like that because it's very predatory.
Okay. And what would you say is is more successful, the Dilaudid, methadone, or the Suboxone?
Um, I would say personally, methadone, from a health standpoint, the healthiest is the Dilaudid program or the shot. I don't think that methadone is very good for your bones or your teeth. Um, and it's very, very bad for your liver.
Yeah.
Also, it's super, super hard, takes a really, really long time to come off.
Yeah.
Where the Dilaudid program, the sickness is not as it's 4 days, like just 4 days, and it's not nearly as bad as the methadone to be sick off of. Um, and you be coming down with your like you be coming down off it with your doctor, and it doesn't give you the liver problems and the bone and teeth problems that methadone does.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything else you want people to know about your experience, or anything that you might tell a parent thinking about sending their kid to a place like this?
I would say talk to your children and talk to them about everything. Talk to them while they're eating. Talk to them about drug use. Talk to them about safe drug use, even if it like makes you like cringe a little bit, because they're out there and they're gonna be doing them. But don't send them away. They just need to be talked to. They just need some love and some understanding. And if you can remember what it's like to be a kid, then probably you won't send your kid there.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you ever want to do a part 2, we'll make that happen. And if you watch so far on the video, please make sure you like the video. If you appreciate my work, please make sure you like the video, comment, and leave, and subscribe if you're not already. And we will catch you on the next one. Bye.